Yo, what is good, guys, and welcome back to our F1 2019 driver career mode. We're now heading into round number 3 of season 1, as we're going to be going to China for the third race of the season. To be completely honest with you guys, the first 2 races of the season haven't been that great, but I have high hopes for this race. So yeah, let's head into quali then. As I was looking on the R&D chart, we couldn't really upgrade anything since we didn't have many R&D points, so yeah. Still, the Williams car's no upgrades, but we're probably going to get some in the future, hopefully.
Welcome to Shanghai, China, for what I've no doubt is going to be a fantastic F1 qualifying session. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
Well, you're largely limited by the Parc Ferme regulations, of course. Back in the old days, pre-2004, you'd work on both a qualifying setup and a race setup over practice, and then swap them over after qualifying. So the race car was quite different at times to the qualifying car. Nowadays, though, you have to find a compromise that works for both. There are a few things that you can still adjust during the session, such as the differential, the brake bias, and the front wing angle, but that's about it. So it's more about optimizing what you do have and adapting your own style to suit the track conditions.
So now we're now heading into quali, and we're going to be starting our first lap. Now, about the series, to be fair, I was expecting this YouTube series to do better than my other videos, because if you have a look at my YouTube channel, then you can clearly see that most of my other videos average like 30 to 40 views. But I have no idea why, but for some reason the F1 2019 career mode, the previous 2 episodes of the series, for some reason, they did better than my average videos. Like, they got 70 views each, and I have no idea if F1 2019 is like trying to revive itself or something, or I'm somehow reviving the game. I have honestly like no idea, to be fair. And yeah, it is kind of confusing. I don't know who specifically is watching this series. I don't know if it's really like F1, a lot of F1 fans, or it's just my regular channel audience, which isn't mainly F1 fans. But yeah, to be fair, I'm pretty happy that that's happening, because my channel was kind of looking dead, to be honest. Because I thought the F1 series, the F1 2019 series, wouldn't be doing that well, because when I did the first episode, the F2 mode thingy, the video only got like 20 views. It was probably only because the video was like 55 minutes long, and I didn't edit it well, to be fair. These videos actually did put a little bit of effort, to be fair, as I watched some F1 career mode episodes before and tried to copy the style a bit similarly, to be fair. And yeah, I don't really got much to say, not gonna lie. We're just rounding off this lap on the very long and quick straight, which can make us go almost 330 kilometers an hour, to be fair. Sometimes even quicker if you have a car in front of you. And yeah, the lap wasn't feeling that terrible, to be fair. We were like doing similar to what the air were doing, to be fair. As in the final corner, we kind of got the corner, to be fair, but to be completely honest with you, I honestly don't care. And I didn't want to slow down just after the corner, because since I don't want to do a proper lap, actually. And yeah, eventually, when I went to the garage, we were practically on par with Russell, technically. It's just our middle sector was terrible, and we had to improve him. Anyways, we were practically on par with him in the first sector, and second sector we were a little bit slower, but I knew there was room for improvement. As eventually, as we headed onto our final lap of Q1 with only 40 seconds to go, we were actually luckily able to find Raikkonen just ahead of us, who would give us some slipstream. Now, of course, I had to somehow try and stick with him, which wasn't going to be easy, to be fair, considering the fact that, yeah, I'm just not good, to be fair. And I was racing against 100 AI on this, in this race. So yeah, the previous race I did like 97 and like 99. For this race, I'm doing 100. I did some practice like before, like I did around that like 20 to 30 laps of time trial before starting the episode. So I could actually know what the track was like, since my previous best lap time in time trial was pretty dismal. Would be like a 60 to 80% AI lap, 80% AI difficulty lap, as my best lap in time trial was like a 132. And anyways, we were almost 5 tenths up on this lap. However, we would kind of bottle it, as we would go a little bit too wide and brake, eventually losing around half of the time we gained. I'm not too sure if this was going to even be enough to bring us into Q2, to be fair. It was probably not. But yeah, we were still fairly close to Raikkonen. We weren't like losing a lot, to be fair. We were just over 3 tenths up. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't close enough to him to get some slipstream, as the tall Russell behind us was actually closer than I thought, to be fair. I mean, they would get a lot of slipstream, to be fair. Even though I don't think they were even that close, to be fair. And eventually we headed into the hairpin, and I did go a little bit wider than I wanted to, but I was able to keep the car steady and eventually just carry on with the lap. And eventually, we eventually cut the corner again, but didn't do it as much as we did last time. And eventually we would round off our lap by improving 3 times, which would unfortunately put us last place. I thought that was a much better lap, to be fair, but it just wasn't, to be fair. So yeah, that would be pretty disappointing, to be fair, as we have the rest of the grid, as Russell was actually P16, so that was a good effort from him, to be fair. But he was only it was like half a tenth off, to be fair, which is very unfortunate. We were only about a tenth or so off Stroll, so if we didn't lose the time game, we would have started like P19 instead of P20. But yeah, it is what it is, and we can't really do much about it, as we're now gonna head into the race, since I don't really got much more to say.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. Your qualifying pace didn't put you at the front of the grid. Will this be a problem tomorrow? It's the start of the season. How do you think things are going to go for you? Great. Well, that's everything.
Bad luck in qualifying. That's not exactly ideal. But there's no points for Saturday. Keep a cool head and make up for it in the race.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We're here in the Yangtze River Delta today, home of the 16 corners that make up the Shanghai International Circuit. 54% of this 3.3-mile lap is taken at full throttle, and we'll be getting up to speeds of around 200 miles an hour, with DRS assisting the cars down the back straight before they brake into the sharp hairpin at turn 14. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about lucky. They're still relatively new to a sport which does have a high learning curve and, of course, little tolerance for mistakes.
And this is something that has ended the career of many a young driver, as that leap up to Formula One proves to be too much. But luckily in this case, I'd say they're doing a good, solid job, and the risk the team took in signing them is definitely starting to pay off.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Albon, Sainz, Perez, Magnussen and Lando Norris, Kvyat, Weber, Devon Butler and Ricciardo, Russell, Raikkonen, Roman Grosjean and Lance Stroll. Lucky and Nico Hulkenberg completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Your target today is 19th place.
So yeah, as Jeff said, we have to finish 94 higher, and Hulkenberg was actually starting behind us due to a grid penalty, as it was time for us to go 5 laps, and it was last us, and away we got. We unfortunately had a little bit of a terrible start as we gear shifted to second gear when I wasn't meant to, and eventually, yeah, I just took 201 and tried to make a move. However, there was a little bit of carnage as there was a Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas who actually went off the circuit. And I somehow made 7 overtakes in one corner. And I was up to P13. I don't know why I even slowed down. So yeah, I somehow made up 7 positions on the first lap. And I think my teammate like went backwards or something. I think he lost like 1 or something. So yeah, now we actually had a lot of positions gained. I mean, we can now actually maybe finish higher than P19 hopefully. We just need 1 retirement. And if we just like fall down the grid somehow in this crappy Williams and eventually just like, yeah, you know, just lose pace, and we'll probably finish P19. I hope so. So yeah, eventually, we were just trying to stick with Devon Butler, even though it was really hard as we were practically closing an entire train right behind us. Well, except the fact that Valtteri Bottas and Renault, I think that was Hulkenberg, maybe got pushed a little bit by me. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure who pushed him, to be fair, as yeah, we were actually not doing that bad, to be fair. We were sticking with the guys ahead and getting the slipstream eventually. However, the Williams just wasn't that quick, unfortunately, as eventually we would have Daniel Ricciardo right behind us, as he looks like he wanted to make a move, but I don't think he was actually close enough, to be fair. Well, I looked around and he was kind of getting really close and was really concerning me, but eventually I was just able to hold the position. And yeah, eventually we were still able to be P13. I know 13 is like an unlucky number, to be fair, because I made this video on Friday actually, so yeah. Wait, no, I didn't make the video on Friday, I actually made it on Saturday. If I made it on Friday and this race just ended up being very unlucky, then I don't know why. But yeah, eventually heading into lap 2, we were practically out of Butler's 1 second range, which was a bit concerning, to be fair. But, you know, we couldn't really do much. And we eventually just tried to stick with the train ahead. There was a massive train ahead because it seems like Science and someone else was starting to battle. In the meantime, it looked like there was a train behind me also. It was just me and Ricciardo now because it seems like a couple of guys behind were actually starting to battle. I mean, we had a lot of clean air, to be fair. Now, further into the lap, whilst we were on the straight, Ricciardo had a pretty good exit whilst we didn't, and eventually Ricciardo was going to make a move on us. Eventually, I was able to fight back as I was just able to go around his outside, but went a little bit too deep, and eventually just lost the position to Ricciardo. But I wasn't going to like give up that easily, as we actually had a bit of ERS, meaning that we could actually overtake him, meaning that after the final corner, we were able to get into Ricciardo's slipstream and try and do an overtake on him, as we were gaining a lot of pace on him, to be fair, and we were actually able to get past him. Even though we did go a little bit deep, we were still able to keep the position, but now we had lost a lot of time to Butler now because of this, even though Butler was actually losing time to the train itself, to be fair, as we would go a little bit deep and Ricciardo would try and go again down the inside, but he wasn't really close enough, unfortunately, as like, the train are now kind of split, as Russell was practically going even more backwards, as he was now like P19 now, because he was battling with Hulkenberg and Valtteri. To be honest, I thought Bottas was actually going to make a lot more progress and catch up a bit quicker, but to be fair, he fell like 10 seconds behind after the thingy from the entire grid, so yeah. We went a little bit too much on the curve, unfortunately, and had a bit of a terrible exit, as we were trying to gap Ricciardo and the car behind. I don't know who was behind us. I think it was Raikkonen who was also behind us. Oh wait, no, I mean it was actually Grosjean. Raikkonen was actually behind Grosjean, so Raikkonen was P16. I don't know how Russell's already down to P19, but we're still P14. Because eventually from this exit, we were actually able to have a pretty good exit, meaning that Ricciardo couldn't get us luckily. Even though I did actually pause the menu because I wanted to check something. And yeah, Russell was P19 after starting P15, which is very unfortunate. Eventually, looks like Grosjean was going to try and make a move on Danny Rick, but I mean that would actually have another gap. I mean, I would have now a bit of an extra gap to know about it, even though I went a little bit deep once again and still didn't gain much time, to be fair. As yeah, heading into lap 4 now, we actually set a pretty good lap, and we actually were able to lose the
1.8 seconds.
Actually stuck, if him and Ricciardo just battled, then that meant I could probably just stay ahead. unfortunately for us, just a little bit later, Grosjean and Bottas would eventually catch up. Eventually with Grosjean making a move with Bottas also, meaning that could have been 3 wide, as Valtteri was actually stuck behind. I tried to make the move on Grosjean, but I was unfortunately not that lucky, as I was still stuck behind him. However, I had, of course, ERS, basically meaning I could just, and the DRS, I mean the ERS and the ERS, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Eventually I had the overtake, and eventually was just able to actually fly past Grosjean and eventually keep my P14. Or my P13, as Grosjean would actually go around the outside after we had a terrible exit. I didn't want to be aggressive, so I didn't like try and make a move on him. I would probably just have to let Grosjean go. Valtteri was really wanting to get past, I was just holding him up, to be fair. However, Valtteri would actually try, due to that powerful Mercedes, as I would eventually actually finally tap him, and eventually just, I don't know what I was trying to do there, and I couldn't even get my words right, because I eventually just, let Bottas through, as Ricciardo would actually try and make a move around the outside, but because I'm pretty bad at this corner, I would just go deep and eventually lose the position to Ricciardo, which was pretty unfortunate, to be fair. This man actually lost 3 positions in the span of 1 lap, which is absolutely nuts, to be fair. But I wasn't going to let Ricciardo slip away. Oh, no. Because I'm not someone who like gives up that easily, to be fair. I was hoping if I actually had a pretty good exit, this meant I could actually get past Ricciardo, which is something I didn't do because my instincts on the corner for some reason didn't work. As we actually had Raikkonen and Stroll right behind us now. I would have the DRS though from Ricciardo though, keeping me just ahead eventually. However, Raikkonen had more ERS than me. Basically, he would try to make a move, but I was actually able to keep it well clean and eventually try and stay ahead of him, and I was actually able to do that. So yeah, it was pretty good, to be fair. Also, if you guys hear any Discord notifications, it's probably my Discord desktop app, to be fair, because whilst I was editing this video, I had a lot of Discord stuff. And eventually, we were actually getting decent close to Ricciardo because of the OP DRS. However, that wasn't probably going to last for long, to be fair, as we would have a terrible corner by just taking the curve. And we went very wide, to be fair, compared to the racing line, as Raikkonen was like trying to squeeze us, to be fair. So yeah, this was a rather interesting race. Well, we're not going to talk about the fact that the entire version of the qualifying and race was almost 3 hours long, because I had to redo the race many times because I kept crashing. I didn't want to just DNF 3 times in a row, that was just unfair. Or, well, I mean, I could just DNF and then get on with the next race just to make more episodes more frequently. But I don't like frequency, to be honest. I just prefer having fun, to be fair. So, yeah. Eventually, Ricciardo was going to now just break away from us, as we had now Raikkonen and Stroll right behind us. But then we had a little bit of a... And we also had Hulkenberg, I think, behind us. But then we had a little bit of a gap to with teammates. So, yeah. I was probably going to finish P19 if I stayed quicker than Russell. Which was probably going to happen, to be fair. As I wasn't actually losing much time to him, to be fair. I was now heading onto the straight of lap 7, to be fair. The tires was starting to feel a little bit dead, to be fair, due to the tire wear. As everyone was going to be doing a 1-stop on this race. And eventually, just having a look, seems like Raikkonen was going to try and make a move on it, but I want to say some ERS. So yeah, eventually Raikkonen was right. Was going to keep the position, but I eventually tried a massive dive, but unfortunately just went very, very deep, and eventually just lost the position to Raikkonen and Stroll, and I slightly tapped Stroll in the back, as Hulkenberg would actually try and make a move on us. But we would kind of get pushed off the track, actually, by Stroll. But eventually we weren't going to let that slide, as we were going to be able to stay ahead of Hulkenberg.
Caution.
There was actually a yellow flag ahead of us just at the start of the next lap, as there was actually someone retiring in just at the first couple of corners, and it was Grosjean, unfortunately. So yeah, after Grosjean, they have one of the best qualifying, and we had a little small battle with him, I suppose. Yeah, eventually he would just, his gearbox would just not work, and eventually he would just retire. Meaning we would actually gain a position, and we were also up to P17. With Hulkenberg still trying to make a move on us, but eventually we were just able to hold him out. So we went a little bit deep, actually, but we were still able to keep the position. I have no idea how we were even defending from Hulkenberg, which is absolutely nuts. As our pit window was almost in full laps, meaning that if we just kept the pace till the end of the pit window, we could have a chance to finish P17 somehow in a Williams, and I have no idea how I'm even doing this, to be fair, because I've already been a lot slower after practice and qualifying. I have a bit of a sore throat, I guess. So yeah. Now, yes, this is the start of lap 12, so like 3 laps later of what I said before, and I'm actually still fighting Hulkenberg somehow, even though we're practically now nowhere near the guys ahead, as they were almost 4 seconds ahead, which is nuts to be fair. And Russell was still behind us, even though he wasn't getting anywhere close, as I was just battering with Hulkenberg for practically the entire race, to be fair. Well, not the entire race, I mean, for this first stint on the medium, to be fair. As our pit window was actually going to open soon, I wasn't going to try and... Now, I couldn't box on lap 13, actually, because Russell was actually boxing me, and I would have to go a lap later, which meant that Hulkenberg would massively undercut me, to be fair.
P17, Ricardo is ahead of you. Gap to car in front is 3.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. Hulkenberg behind. Less than a second separate you. They're on old mediums. Your pit window opens in 2 laps' time. 17 laps to go.
As yeah, we were practically in a Renault sandwich, as we had Ricardo ahead of us, who was in the Renault, and then Hulkenberg in the other Renault just ahead of us, as it looked like there was a bit of battling going on between Ricardo, Stroll, and Raikkonen, even though Raikkonen had actually broken the DRS from Thingy. So yeah. Now, eventually, nothing much was happening, to be fair, except the fact that Hamilton and the Ferrari of Vettel were just up, and a Ferrari, I don't know which one it was, I think it was Vettel, we're actually getting destroyed, which is nuts, to be fair. As Hulkenberg would once again try to make a move on us, but we weren't gonna let that slide, actually, and we were still gonna stay ahead of him, even though we did go a little bit wide, and he was trying to go side by side with us, but because we were able to brake later, we were actually able to stay ahead, and I have no idea what was going on because I had a little bit of a lag spike for some reason.
Okay, gap ahead is 3.9
As Hulkenberg had the
seconds.
DRS, and he was actually gonna try and make a move on us again. I actually enjoyed his battle with Hulkenberg, even though when I did try to get past him, he eventually loudly told me, as I don't know what's going on, but the video's like really lagging. I don't know if it's just me in CapCut or it's the game itself, but yeah, there was actually no rain, so it was gonna be another dry race, to be fair. Now, unfortunately, from this point onward, I couldn't stick with Hulkenberg whatsoever, as he unfortunately was able to get past me and finally able to stick the gap, as Russell was like 3 seconds behind me, actually. However, I did have Hulkenberg as a bit of slipstream, hopefully, to actually help. Well, I hope he would help. I hope I didn't actually, like, lose the slipstream and just span up, like, a couple of corners, because if I did, that would just be very stupid of me. As the tires were, like, near non-existent, to be fair, as we would do a little bit of a mistake, but we somehow did put it into the wall. As Hulkenberg had just broken the DRS, and we had lost a little bit of time to Russell, but to be fair, I think we were actually overall quicker than him. So yeah, hopefully no more problems for us. Now, it still said we got the DRS wheelie, even though we were like, even though it said we were over 1 second. As you can see on the minimap, there were actually people pitting. Now, I could have unfortunately, now, wait, I thought I clicked the box lap thing, but it was instead of 4 race updates. And yeah, eventually we're actually still able to stick with Hulkenberg, as Hulkenberg actually stay out, and I would unfortunately have to stay out. So I had to stay out for 1 more lap. I mean, I couldn't box anyway, because Russell was actually going to come into the pits, actually, as it said, on the minimap. Yeah, it said teammates in the pits. We would come out ahead of a couple of cars, and we would just come out just ahead of Perez, actually, who was just behind us. Now, I didn't want to, like, fight him too much, because I knew he was on fresh tires, and I couldn't practically fight him, to be fair. We were not losing that much time to Hulkenberg, to be fair. We were actually staying fairly close, to be fair. So yeah, this has been a rather interesting race, to be fair. As Jeff was like, we can't dig you in, bro. Russell's in the pits. I mean, he's already done his stop, so why can I not box? As we would have a massive snap, to be fair. You know, we will lose a little bit more time to Hulk, but not gonna lie, we had the similar pace. We had similar pace actually to these guys, to the Reynolds and Stroll. As yeah, to be fair, we weren't doing that bad. We were doing better than what Williams expected, to be fair. So yeah, that was that's something to say at least. As Perez was still actually behind us, but I wasn't going to bother trying to find him, as he was probably going to overtake me on the straight, and we unfortunately lost the 1 second DRS thingy to Hulk, as yeah, that was pretty unfortunate, to be fair. I don't know why I did that voice, to be fair, but eventually Perez would obviously has more grip than us, and he actually has the slipstream, so yeah, he did just get past us there, but I'm not going to try and fight, since there's not really any point, as I was actually going to be boxing this lap anyways, even though I did lose a lot of time to Hulkenberg, which was not ideal, to be fair. As yeah, now it was time for our pit stop, to be fair. as we'll just go into the Shanghai pit lane, which I broke a little bit later more than my liking, to be fair, but we were still able to follow the regular race line. As now we're actually able to... Sorry, someone entered my room. As yeah, we're now entering the pit lane, and yeah, look, we entered the pit box, and it was actually looking at a pretty good stop, but unfortunately, me being me, I for some reason couldn't put the clutch down, as Russell was as we would unfortunately wait, I have no idea what I'm trying to say, to be fair. Well, okay, let's just try and get back with the script. I didn't run out of script, so yeah. Eventually we'll just come out in between Russell and Hulkenberg. As Hulkenberg had a little bit of a gap, but Russell in the meantime was, because Hulkenberg was now almost 1.4 seconds ahead, but Russell actually gaining a lot of time due to the undercut, because he was now only 2 seconds behind. But I knew I had much better pace than Russell. Me and I could probably push, to be fair. I was gonna push for like the first few laps of the stint, since I didn't want to like push too much, because if I did, I would probably have dead tires till the end, to be fair. As I was just gonna try and keep position and stay ahead of Russell. Well, not by doing that, because I just went really wide, to be fair. As Hamilton sets a new fastest lap. I wish in this save I was actually in a quicker car, but I didn't want to start in a quicker car. I just want to start with a backmarker team, and yeah, eventually try and make them better again. I also have no idea how long I'm going to do this series for, because I'll probably try and do like 5 seasons, so that'll be like 100 episodes. I mean, and at the current rate of uploading, if I just do like, then most likely we're probably going to finish this series in like 2 years or so, which isn't ideal, because I do not want to finish this series in 2 years. That will probably be too long, to be fair. But yeah, I might try to upload 2 to 3 episodes next week, because yeah, I have a lot of free time now, so I don't have anything major to do. I think I don't. I'm not sure, to be fair. And also, the Christmas holidays are coming. I mean, I should try to upload a lot, because I might not be able to upload a lot for Christmas. So yeah, you know, I'll try and do my best, to be fair, because if I don't upload much for Christmas, my channel will probably be dead by that point. But most people don't even upload on Christmas, because it's a time to celebrate with your family. So yeah, even though some people don't celebrate Christmas due to religion and stuff. So yeah. Whatever you guys think, it's obviously like my choice if I want to upload a lot, but yeah, to be fair, I don't know what to do, so yeah. Now, unfortunately, just skipping a few laps later, I wasn't really able to skip a Hulkenberg. Things would get a little bit worse for my teammate, as Jeff literally said that Russell had a mechanical issue or something. I mean, I would be really slow, and actually, this wouldn't really help him, as he would end up actually being lapped, actually, to the race leaders, because he was so slow. I mean, yeah, I was most likely going to finish P19 unless I somehow crashed and retired on the last few laps, which I hope didn't happen, to be fair. As yeah, the race was a bit spicy at the beginning, but it turned a little bit boring, to be fair. I was literally nowhere, actually, because now I thought maybe I could catch up to the guys ahead, as Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, and Stroll actually battling, but I didn't really catch up, to be fair. I only caught up by like a few tenths per lap, which wasn't really enough, to be fair, considering they were even battling like enough, to be fair. Now, due to Russell's mechanical ability, it would almost be like 40 seconds behind me by the end of the race. As yeah, the reason I'm going into cockpit cam is to see the delta, to see how quick I am, to see if I can somehow manage to set a new personal best lap, which wasn't easy, of course, because I didn't want to use too much ERS, because then I don't have to ERS him and I'll lose a little bit of time. Now, to be fair, I was fine, nobody, so I could have probably done that, to be fair. But me being me, I didn't, as I just said the ERS low, since I knew I couldn't really improve, to be fair.
Okay, gap ahead is 2.8.
But to be fair with you guys, we did have decent pace this race. But to be fair, it was mainly a boring race, not gonna lie. The only drama really had was lap 1, which involved Bottas going off the track, which has managed to recover to P6, which is pretty decent. To be fair. And yeah, we then had Grosjean returning on lap 9, and we did have a lot of good battles with some drivers, so like 1 to 2 lap battles. Especially in Hulkenberg, we were able to balance from like lap 8 to like 13. So yeah, it was a pretty decent race for me on my fault. Russell was unfortunately had started higher, but he unfortunately just didn't have as much luck. I was able to get really lucky from the start, because I was able to make so many overtakes, actually. To be honest, could have easily gone into the points if I made a few more, but I was not gonna stay in. I was not gonna stay in the points with that pace, bro. I would have probably just caused an entire train, which I did kind of do this race, to be fair, but it wasn't. It was like one to two car trains, to be fair. So yeah, wasn't anything major. As we were actually catching up to the guys ahead because we were battling. Russell was probably gonna be nowhere by the end of the race. The race leaders were actually not that far, to be fair. They're only about a sector behind, basically meaning that if Russell just kept losing time, he would have probably been lapped, which didn't actually happen, which is very unfortunate. Okay, guys, I'm kind of sorry if the audio recording like stopped there. I'll set of course at the end, so yeah, just so you know. Now, just a couple of laps later, Jeff will say this.
We're looking at some gearbox wear. Try to keep your number of shifts to a minimum.
Now, I may have kind of taken it a little bit too literally, as I don't know if when you have a gear shot, a very worn gearbox, you have to, like, not shift at all. Like, I barely shifted whatsoever. Like, yeah, look, I just didn't shift whatsoever in some corners. So, yeah, I don't know if I was either meant to do that, or that's just how the gearbox thing is meant to work. Because because I thought if you, like, gear shift really late, then you would lose a lot of fuel. To be fair, I was kind of concerned about the gearbox, but to be fair, it didn't really matter, because after all I did, I only lost 2% gearbox to wear in like 6 laps. So yeah, that's something at least. I don't know if I might keep this gearbox like not one more race at Baku. So yeah, that will be the next episode. And then I'll probably change it, because I don't want to like take any risks, because if I have because I think I only have like a max of 2 or 1 gearbox per season. I have no idea, to be fair. Now, I have honestly no idea how we're meant to even save that many gearboxes, to be fair. Most of the components, to be fair, weren't even that worn out. It was only the gearbox. I don't know if I had a gearbox problem, or I just used the gearbox a little bit too much, to be fair. Because I have honestly no idea, because I did 2 races. And I did 2 races and crashed in both of them, so it was most likely the gearbox getting damaged. I've now really had one more lap to go. Well, one more lap and one more corner, to be fair. As, yeah, nothing happened just for the last few laps. I was still fairly close to the top 3 ahead, as Ricardo lost the DRS from Stroll and Hulkenberg. As we're now going to start our final lap on the race. Of the race, I mean. And, yeah. We would actually be the last not lapped car, because Russell's gearbox issue was so terrible that he ended up like 30 seconds behind. Yeah, like, he was, yeah, like, no joke. If you look at the minimap, he was almost lapped by the Ferrari in P2. This just showed how much he struggled, to be fair. But yeah, we were just trying to set a quick lap for the final lap of the race. It's not what usually most drivers do it, most AI do in this game, where basically, they save up ERS or something and try to do a fastest lap on the final race. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that is, like, normal or anything, or I don't know, to be fair. But yeah. I don't really got much to say, not gonna lie. As yeah, we're just trying to keep the car clean, as we were not on a bad lap, even though we were concerningly low on ERS, meaning that we might not be able to set a very quick lap, to be fair. So yeah, it was a pretty good race, to be honest, as we actually started 1 position below, and the goal was actually P19, as Jeff said it in the beginning of the race, as I was just changing the cockpit cam to see the delta. I mean, the delta of how far up we were on our lap time, because I could, like, barely see it whatsoever. But I didn't want to just do cockpit counts, that was, like, really hard. I don't know if did I say cockpit or what? I don't know why I said, to be fair. But yeah, now we're just going to round off the final corner and finish in P18, so we would actually finish a race for once on this game. And yeah, really good race, I say.
Good job, you did really well. Super driving.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. So let's review the updated driver's standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
Nico Hulkenberg did an excellent job out on the track today. He played aggressively and knew exactly when to capitalise on openings throughout the race.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, good work from Racing Point this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So yeah, guys, I'm gonna end the video here. To be honest, this video's a bit longer than I wanted to. It's almost 36 minutes, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, guys, I'll see you all next video, which will probably be either a different video or it'll be part 4. I've honestly got no idea, to be fair. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. So bye, I guess.